Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I wasn't supposed to be at that party. At least, not initially. It was one of those last-minute things, a company event my wife had planned for weeks, but kept referring to as not a big deal. So when she asked if I wanted to come, it felt more like an afterthought than an invitation. Still, I said yes. I'd been working long hours lately, and I figured showing up would be a decent way to reconnect, maybe remind her, and myself, that we still had something to show up for. We arrived separately. She'd gone ahead with a few co-workers to set things up, and I came straight from the office. The venue was this upscale rooftop bar overlooking the city skyline. Chic lighting, ambient music, a crowd that looked like it had just walked off the pages of a corporate lifestyle magazine. I wore a jacket she had once complimented, a subtle way of reminding her that I still remembered the small things. I walked in unnoticed. She was across the room, surrounded by people, laughing that particular laugh she reserves for those moments when she wants to be the center of gravity. I made my way to the bar, nodding politely to a few of her colleagues I recognized, but barely knew. A drink in hand, I stood off to the side, watching her from a distance, waiting for her to glance my way. She never did. Then it happened. I wasn't eavesdropping. I was maybe 10 feet away, half shielded by a column, sipping my drink when one of her friends asked, "So where's the lucky husband?" I saw her turn slightly, her expression shift into something playful, maybe a little smug. She raised her glass and said, "Oh, you mean my plus one?" A pause, a mischievous grin. "Yeah, he's here somewhere. Probably weighing down the bar like the dead weight he is." The group erupted into that awkward kind of laughter people let out when they're not sure if something's actually funny or just uncomfortable. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I let the words sink in, let the moment carve itself into the back of my brain. Dead weight. That's what I was to her. She wasn't done. Honestly, I don't know how I do it sometimes. Between work, managing the house, dealing with all the stuff he forgets. I swear, I'm running this entire show by myself. She took another sip of her drink, oblivious to how her words were landing, or maybe not caring at all. I watched them laugh and nod, some trying to deflect, others joining in with their own exaggerated complaints about their partners. But no one called her out. No one looked shocked. And that told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a slip. This was a script she had recited before. I just hadn't been around to hear it. What made it worse wasn't just the insult. It was the casual cruelty, the ease with which she diminished me. I had given up a promotion 2 years ago to be closer to home, thinking we needed more time together. I'd rearranged my schedule so I could be the one who handled the evening errands, cooked most nights, paid every bill without comment. I even managed her calendar half the time. She didn't know when her dentist appointments were unless I reminded her. And yet, here I was, being mocked like some useless passenger in a vehicle she drove alone. I didn't confront her. I simply placed my drink on the counter, turned around, and walked out. My footsteps felt light, like something had just snapped loose inside me. A cold, focused stillness I hadn't felt in years. Out on the street, I could still hear the low thrum of music from the rooftop above. I stood under a street lamp, letting the breeze hit my face, and realized I didn't want to go home. Not tonight. Maybe not again. I didn't want to sleep beside someone who laughed about me like that. I didn't want to wake up next to someone who saw me as a burden. The walk to my car felt longer than usual. I wasn't thinking about what I'd say to her or how I'd explain leaving the party early. That thought didn't hurt as much as it should have. It just settled. I sat behind the wheel for a long while, hands resting on the steering wheel, the dashboard lights casting a pale glow over my fingers. Her words played on a loop in my head, each repetition dulling the pain and sharpening my resolve. I wanted peace, and the first step to finding it was leaving behind the one person who mistook my presence for a burden. I didn't drive home. I found a small, quiet hotel downtown and checked in under my middle name. No calls, no messages. I remembered the nights I stayed up filling out her tax forms because numbers stressed her out. The time I skipped a friend's wedding to help her prepare for a presentation. The 1,000 quiet sacrifices that didn't have names or recognition, but were real just the same. Dead weight doesn't do those things. But that's the thing about being quiet, dependable, and steady. It's easy for people to forget you're the reason the whole structure hasn't collapsed. She would find out soon enough. And I wouldn't need to say a single word to make her see it. I didn't sleep much that night, but I wasn't tired either. The kind of wakefulness I felt wasn't the product of caffeine or anxiety, it was clarity. I lay on that stiff hotel mattress with my arms behind my head, staring at the ceiling fan spinning shadows around the room. There was no rage, no plotting, just a sense of inevitability settling over me like dust. By the time the sun began to bleed through the hotel curtains, I had already made my decision. I went home just after dawn. The house was silent, still wrapped in sleep. Her car was in the driveway. I moved quietly through the door, not wanting to wake her, because I didn't want to waste time on conversation. I wasn't there to talk. I was there to extract myself. It was like moving through a museum of all the things I used to care about. Everything looked exactly as it always had, and yet I felt like a stranger walking through a place I used to own but no longer belonged in. I went straight to the closet, pulled out the duffel bag I used for weekend trips, and began packing. I didn't take everything. Just the essentials, enough clothes for a few weeks, my laptop, important documents, and the watch my father gave me when I got my first real job. I left the suit she bought me for our anniversary. It didn't feel like it belonged to me anymore. I opened the safe and transferred the cash reserves I had always kept there. Most of our finances were digital, but I had been raised by a father who taught me that a man should always keep some emergency money where no one else could reach it. I never thought I'd need it for this. I logged into the joint bank account and transferred my salary from the last 3 months, my earnings, into an account under my name only. I left hers untouched. I wasn't here to bleed her dry, just to make a clean cut. The note I left wasn't poetic. It wasn't bitter. Just a single sentence written in block letters on a yellow sticky note. Deadweight doesn't carry the load. I placed it on the refrigerator door, where I knew she'd see it when she came down for her morning coffee. Then I walked out. I checked into a rental on the other side of town under my middle name. A barebones studio apartment, nothing fancy, but clean, private. The first few days passed in a blur of silence. I didn't contact anyone, didn't explain myself to friends or family. I wanted distance, not pity. She began calling by the second day. The text followed. Where are you? Are you okay? This isn't funny. Then, can we talk? I didn't mean it like that. You're overreacting. I didn't respond to a single message. I wasn't punishing her. I was breaking a cycle. Every time in the past that she crossed a line, said something cruel, made me feel invisible, she would soften it with a joke, a wink, a kiss, and I would let it go. This time, I wasn't going to give her the chance to rewrite the script. There was a strange power in isolation. In the absence of her voice, her needs, I rediscovered my own. I started running again. Not out of habit or for health, but because I finally had time to think while my feet hit pavement. I cooked for myself, simple meals, nothing extravagant, but each one was seasoned with the knowledge that no one would scoff or criticize. I slept without grinding my teeth. I didn't realize how deeply I'd contorted myself to fit into her world until I stepped out of it. Once, I saw a message pop up on my phone while I was checking my email. Just the preview. I can't do this alone. You made this impossible. I swiped it away without reading the rest. I wasn't interested in emotional negotiations. Not anymore. The weight I carried in that marriage wasn't mine alone. It was both of ours. But I was the one pulling the cart while she rode inside it, complaining about the scenery. And when I stepped away, the wheels didn't turn anymore. Some nights, I sat by the window of that tiny apartment, watching traffic crawl along the distant overpass. The city felt different, sharper, quieter. I wasn't sure what came next. I didn't have a plan beyond staying gone. But I knew one thing for sure. She would feel my absence. And she'd come to understand, bill by bill, broken routine by forgotten task, that dead weight isn't what sinks a ship. It's what keeps it balanced. I never had to wonder whether she noticed I was gone. The signs arrived before she did. It started with the small things, fragments I picked up from people we both knew, but who were clearly closer to me than they ever were to her. A mutual friend who texted, "Are you okay?" I ran into Kara, and she seemed off. Another sent me a screenshot, an Instagram story she'd posted and quickly deleted. A photo of a burnt casserole with the caption, "Trying to do it all, failing spectacularly." The kind of post someone makes when they're craving sympathy without revealing how much they've actually lost. She didn't know it, but I was watching the slow collapse of the life she claimed she'd built alone. The first concrete evidence came through a call from our mortgage lender. I hadn't changed my number, though I rarely answered unknowns anymore. When I picked up, it was a representative informing me that the last payment had bounced. My name was still on the account, but I let them know, in precise legal terms, that all financial responsibility was now hers. I wasn't covering the shortfall. The same happened with the landscaper who used to maintain our yard twice a month. He called and said no one was responding to his invoices. The front lawn was starting to resemble a forgotten lot. I told him to cancel all future visits. Every invisible task I used to handle, every quiet, mechanical piece of daily life, was now left spinning without its gear. I didn't take joy in it. It wasn't about schadenfreude or revenge. It was confirmation. She wasn't just missing me as a person. She was struggling because the systems I upheld without applause were now failing in my silence. A week later, I learned through another friend, James, a coworker of hers I had spoken to a few times at functions, that she'd been reprimanded at work for missing a major client deadline. She's not focused, he told me in a hushed voice over the phone. She looks tired all the time, and honestly, she seems rattled. Like she's waiting for something to fix itself. Some nights I'd walk past cafes we used to frequent and catch a flash of someone who looked like her. Every time, I kept walking. Not out of fear, but because I no longer owed her a reaction. Then came the messages from her friends, the ones who used to laugh along with her. Alyssa, one of her closest colleagues, emailed me out of the blue. The tone was surprisingly formal. "I don't know what happened," she wrote, "but whatever it was, she's not handling it well. She keeps saying you abandoned her, but the way she's describing things, it sounds like she's leaving a lot out." I didn't reply. I had nothing to prove. If the people in her circle were beginning to question her narrative, that wasn't my doing. It was hers, unraveling under the pressure of self-deception. About 3 weeks after I vanished, I spotted her outside my old office. I was meeting a former colleague for coffee, and there she was, standing near the parking lot, phone in hand, scanning faces. She looked thinner. Her posture was different, not sharp and assertive, but searching. She didn't see me. I stayed back, half hidden behind a row of parked cars. She stood there for a few minutes, then slowly walked to her car, head down. Later that night, I received a long message. "I miss you. I didn't realize how much you did. The bills, the little things, it's all been falling apart without you." I said something stupid that night. I was trying to be funny. I didn't mean it. That last sentence echoed the loudest. I didn't mean it. But she did. Maybe not with full intent, but the tone, the dismissiveness, all of it had been real. You don't say someone is dead weight in front of a crowd unless there's some seed of belief behind it. You don't laugh about the person who shares your home, your bed, unless you've already decided they're disposable. A few days later, a letter arrived at my temporary place. Handwritten, folded neatly, no return address. She must have gotten it from one of our shared contacts. Inside, she wrote about how hard things had been. The stress, the loneliness, how she was trying her best. There was no apology. Just a carefully constructed plea. "I need you back. I can't do this without you." There it was. She couldn't do it without me, the one she claimed was holding her back. And still, I remained silent. What would words do? What could I possibly say that would make her understand the depth of what she'd lost? This wasn't about her emotions. It was about the vacuum I left behind. I didn't disappear to punish her. I left to preserve what was left of myself. Now, she was facing every task she once believed was beneath her. And the weight? It wasn't dead anymore. It was alive and shifting. It was hers. And I had never felt lighter. She found me on a Monday. I had just finished a morning run and was unlocking the door to my apartment when I heard her voice, unsteady, cautious. "Wait." I turned around slowly, already knowing who it was before I saw her. There was no mistaking the shape of that voice, even hollowed out by fatigue. She stood there on the edge of the sidewalk, clutching her purse like it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. I didn't speak. I didn't ask how she found me. "I needed to see you," she said, eyes searching mine for some reaction, some flicker of recognition or mercy. "I've been trying to hold everything together, but it's like nothing works without you." She stepped closer but stopped when she realized I wasn't moving to meet her. "I know I hurt you. I know what I said that night at the party. I've replayed it over and over again. I was showing off, trying to be funny. I didn't mean for it to come out like that." "Like what?" I asked, finally breaking my silence. "Like I was dead weight? Or like you'd be better off without me?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, I saw her hesitate, not in the dramatic way people perform remorse, but in the raw, scrambling way people react when they're exposed. "I didn't realize how much you did," she said. "I never really saw it before. The bills, the planning, the house stuff, even just the emotional support. It's like the whole world tilted the second you left." "That's because I kept the balance," I said, my voice steady. "I wasn't your passenger. I was the one checking the map while you bragged about driving. She blinked fast. I don't want to fight. I'm not fighting, I replied. I'm informing. She pulled a folded envelope from her purse and handed it to me. I took it without looking at it. What is this? Final division papers. I used your draft. I signed them. Her voice cracked. I'm not here to stop anything. I just thought maybe I owed you that face-to-face. I nodded slowly. You did, but not now. You owed it to me when you stood surrounded by your friends and treated me like a footnote in your success story. You owed it to me the 100 times you let your pride speak louder than your gratitude. I know, she whispered. No, I said. I don't think you do. Not yet. I stepped aside and opened the apartment door. She looked surprised, maybe even hopeful, but I wasn't inviting her in. I reached for a folder inside and handed her a document, something I had compiled over the last few weeks. A breakdown. Practical. Real. It listed everything I had done for the past 3 years. Not just in marriage, but in silence. Scheduling her dentist appointments. Renewing the home warranty. Managing our tax prep files. Keeping her parents' birthdays on our calendar. Grocery preferences I had memorized. The cleaning service I coordinated behind the scenes every other Friday. At the bottom, I wrote, "This is what dead weight looked like." She read it quietly. Her hands trembled. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, I said. But you need to know. Because without that knowledge, you'll do this again to someone else. You'll strip them down with little comments, subtle jabs, and then wonder why they stopped showing up. Tears welled in her eyes. She bit her lip. You were never a burden. I shook my head. That's the tragedy, isn't it? I never needed you to say I was everything. I just needed you not to treat me like I was nothing. She opened her mouth, maybe to apologize again, but I raised a hand. Let me finish. She nodded, lips pressed together. I didn't leave because you said something cruel. I left because it revealed something truer than anything else you'd ever said. That you had stopped seeing me. That whatever we were building together had quietly become a stage for your solo performance. The silence between us stretched wide. She finally spoke, her voice barely audible. Do you hate me? No, I said. I outgrew you. She closed her eyes at that, like it physically hurt to hear. I wish you had told me sooner, she whispered. I did, I replied. In every quiet sacrifice. In every gesture you overlooked. You just didn't listen. Because you thought silence meant agreement. It didn't. It meant patience. And you exhausted it. She looked up at me then, something new behind her eyes, something closer to understanding than regret. I handed her the signed copy of the papers she brought. I'll file these tomorrow. You'll be free. So will I. I don't know how to go back to the way things were before you, she said, clutching the document. You're not supposed to, I replied. You're supposed to learn why you lost what you never appreciated. Then I closed the door behind me. And for the first time in years, I felt untethered. Not lost, just no longer bound by the weight of someone else's blindness. It's strange how quiet freedom is. You expect it to be loud somehow, like fireworks or applause, or at least the deep exhale of something unchained. But when the papers were finally filed, and I walked out of the courthouse with a copy in hand, all I felt was stillness. Not numbness, not emptiness. Just peace. I folded the document once and tucked it into my jacket pocket. The sidewalk buzzed with the sounds of life, horns, heels on pavement, conversation drifting through open cafe windows, but inside me, everything had settled. There was no more spinning, no more second-guessing. I hadn't spoken to her since that final meeting. She didn't call. I didn't reach out. Whatever words we might have left were buried under too many things that had gone unsaid for too long. Some silences are just permanent. The apartment that once felt temporary had started to feel like mine. Slowly, without ceremony, I began filling the spaces not with furniture or decorations, but with habits that were mine alone. I read again. Cooked when I felt like it. Left dishes in the sink some nights just because I could. I wasn't messy or reckless. I was simply choosing my own pace for the first time in years. Some evenings, I'd sit by the window with a cup of coffee and think about how much energy I used to spend holding everything together. Not just the house or the routines, but the emotional terrain of our marriage. I was the shock absorber, the buffer between her moods and reality, the planner, the quiet voice that reminded her when to breathe. I heard things, always indirectly and filtered. She moved into a smaller place, closer to her office. Sold the house within 2 months of our divorce being finalized. I never asked how much she got for it. I didn't care. It was never the walls that made that home livable. It was the weight I bore in silence that kept the beams from cracking. Mutual acquaintances told me she'd grown more reserved, less flashy, that she didn't host as often, that she seemed softer, but also lonelier. I didn't cheer for her unraveling. I had no interest in seeing her fall. I just wanted the truth to land where it belonged. She'd spent years convincing herself she was the center of our world, that I was orbiting her brilliance, tagging along while she did the heavy lifting. But when I stopped orbiting, her gravity collapsed. Because I was never dead weight. And you don't notice the foundation until the walls start shifting beneath you. A few months after the divorce, I ran into someone we both knew. An old neighbor, Carol, who used to drop off cookies around Christmas and gossip about the HOA board like it was national news. She greeted me with warmth and then hesitated, her tone dipping. "I ran into Claire," she said. She looked not great. "She said she misses you." I nodded. "She misses the results of having me, not me." Carol gave a sad smile. "That's a hell of a distinction." "It's the only one that matters," I said. "The truth is, I don't miss her. I miss the man I thought I was allowed to be when we first got married, the one who thought teamwork meant shared burdens, not unspoken hierarchies. I miss the illusion that love meant partnership. But I don't miss the reality we settled into. I don't miss feeling invisible until something went wrong. I don't miss being thanked with complaints. What I gained in her absence was something she never gave me space for: clarity. I know what I bring to the table now. Every now and then, I pass by places we used to frequent. A restaurant where I always picked up the tab. A theater where she spent the entire show whispering critiques. And I remember how much effort I used to put into making those nights feel special, even when they ended with me driving home in silence while she scrolled through her phone. Those memories don't hurt anymore. They just remind me of the imbalance I lived with for so long. One evening, as I was closing my laptop, I noticed an email come through from her. Just a subject line. "Just wanted you to know." I hovered over it for a moment, then deleted it without opening. Whatever it said, I didn't need to know. That was the lesson in all of this. The power of walking away is not in hurting someone. It's in no longer asking them for permission to be seen. There's no grand ending to this story. No dramatic reunion. Just a man who was once dismissed, now walking forward with nothing on his back. Because the truth is, I was never dead weight. I was the thing that kept her life from falling apart. And when I left, I didn't collapse.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.